Welcome to ADH Fisheries. Now in this short piece, I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about spring fishing and more specifically solid bags and why I think they're so devastating at this time of the year. So we're going to be looking at the rig I use, how I tie the bag and see whether the proof's in the pudding, and hopefully I can pull a couple on the bank for you. Solid bags can be a massive edge, especially in the spring. The fact that you can fish them on their own, over a spread of boilies, over a spod mix, they lend themselves perfectly to that small parcel of food which the carp are looking for. So to start at the business end, I've got a little CC Moore Yellow Northern Special wafter on there. The hook itself is a size 4 Apex curve hook, and then I've got one of my small curve kickers. That's made slip D style, very important. The rig material itself is a 25-pound silk flex. I've got around 5.5 inches of that material there, and that's down to a size 8 flexi ring swivel, which goes inside a 3-ounce inline lead. Now, it's rig tubing only on this venue, so I've got a little tail rubber there on the insert and a short section of a rock bottom tungsten tubing before you get to our ever popular 18-pound fluorocast mainline. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you exactly how I tie my bags. So first up, I'm going to drop my rig inside some powder or ground bait. In this case, it's a salmon fry crumb. That's just going to dry off any excess moisture on the rig, which could melt the bag. I'm then going to take a small disperse solid bag. What I'm going to do then is I'm just going to take a little scoop of the salmon fry crumb just to go into the bottom of the bag. That's just going to mean if there is any remaining moisture on the rig, it's not going to sort of melt the bottom of the bag, and your lead's not going to explode out the bottom on the cast. Also, with that going in dry, it'll work its way up the upper layers as well, and also give you another layer of attraction on the bottom. Now, next what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the rig, make sure the D section of the rig isn't tangled, and then drop your rig in and your lead. I'm not fussy at all where the hook bait is in terms of the bag. Personally, I think the bag, when it melts, the fish will disturb all the bait anyway. Nuisance fish will peck at the bag. Your hook bait with a neutral buoyant hook bait with a wafter, it'll 9 times out of 10 nestle where it wants to anyway. So I don't spend time making it look too pretty. I'm then going to take some of the mini ultra mix, which has loads of different micro pellets, and I'm going to make a thin layer of that and just lift my lead out and tap that lead on top of the hook bait and the hook. So now that hook bait is completely protected between a layer of the salmon fry crumb and a layer of the pellets. And then I'm going to keep working the bag. I'm not going to fill it all the way. Nearly there. Now for me, the most important part is getting that lead dead center of the bag, because if it isn't dead center and you want to cast a long way like we're doing here, it can sometimes wobble in flight, which will obviously affect the distance that you can actually go. So for me, that is the most important bit of this bag, making sure that lead's dead center, making sure where your tubing is. Once you're happy, tap, grab, and just give it a few taps, and you should start to feel that pellet start compressing down nicely. One last check it's in the center, and then we're going to start twisting it. Now when I've twisted it, always hold the bag upwards, which makes this next stage very easy. I'm going to take some dispersed PVA tape, and I'm just going to be able to wrap this round. Now each resolution wants to go back up towards the pellet, which again is just going to aid in compacting all that contents of the bag down. A couple of very complicated granny knots. Trim off your tag ends. Now I can already start to feel that bag starting to take shape. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to trim off this excess. Be careful, don't trim through your tubing or main line. I've done it plenty of times over the years, and there's nothing more annoying. And then lick the seam down, fold it over, and then I'm going to trim off both the corners. Now what that will mean is once I start pushing these corners in, some of that salmon fry crumb and the remaining air will shoot out the other side, meaning you can really compact it down. Lick, stick, and again repeat the process on this side. Lick and stick. Okay, now so to finish the bag off, what I'm going to do is I like to inject some liquid. So in this case, I've got the Feed Stim XP and the hemp oil, and I'm just going to inject this like so. And there you go. That is ready to be cast out in the lake. It's done the do on this session. It's caught some lovely fish. Brilliant, brilliant spring tactic. If you're not on them, you really are missing a trick. Check that out. Second 30 pounder of the session. This one came over the bait, put 12 spawns of Pacific tuna crumb out yesterday afternoon, and yeah, this morning, part of a double take, this one came along just over 34 pound. Let's hope there's some more. I'm going to do 22 wraps rather than 21 wraps, just to see whether they've pushed a little bit further. Well, if that isn't proof in the pudding that solid bags are an absolute weapon at this time of the year, don't know what is. 37 pounds, still got one night to go yet. However, this is the last fish. What a place. This place is going to be spectacular in 3 years' time. I mean, it's incredible now. But yeah, those solid bags are absolutely lethal. Little tiny yellow afters inside, and at this time of the year, if you put them in the right place, they will not let you down, so get on them. So let's have a little talk about solid bag fishing now. I'm going to talk you through my preferences and thinking behind what I do. So for me, hook baits. Now, I'm a massive advocate and fan of yellow baits, especially in waters that have got blue dye. I don't know what it is, but for some reason, yellow seems to work, and every single fish that I've had this trip has been on yellow. I've tried pinks, not a bite. The minute you put yellow on, you get bites. So they are always my number one go-to, but a pink as a change bait is never a bad option because it all depends on the lake. But also, if you notice at the top, I've actually got some match the hatch baits as well. So if you find that you're getting hook pulls, or every couple of fish you're getting a hook pull, what might be happening is the fish are homing in on the pellets, eating the contents of the bag, actually not wanting to take your hook bait, but because your hook bait is in the middle of that, you're kind of nicking them on the outside of the mouth, you're getting your take, you're picking up into it, you're pulling out of it. So what I would do then is I'd choose something like a match the hatch, something like the Pacific tuna, which matches the contents in colour of the pellets, trim it down into a nice little pellet shape, and what you'll find is then you'll probably stop receiving those hook pulls. So that's the hook bait side of things. Now, lastly, what I'm going to say is you want everything in that bag, the contents, to be as small as possible. The fish are sifting through it, which means that you want nice small hook baits. So these little wafters, 10 by 14 mil, even they may be a bit too big sometimes. So again, trim them down. You want everything to match the size, especially a hook bait, of the contents of the bag. The other thing is, I mentioned earlier that I was injecting liquids. Now it's something that I do quite regularly with my bags. I've been using the Feed Stim XP, which is like a feed stimulant, and also the hemp oil. Hemp oil is a great all year round oil, whether that be spring, summer, autumn or winter. For me, I like to mix and match, so I've been injecting those two. As long as it's a thin liquid, it's PVA friendly, you can pretty much get away with anything really. And during the winter, if you want to start playing with little trickeries like putting maggots in your bags, casters, just make sure that you don't compact and tighten everything down in the bag too much. If you burst one, it'll melt the PVA. But like I said, PVA friendly hemp, boilie crumb, chopped tigers if rules allow, the world's your oyster with them, basically. A little small parcel of food, lots of attraction pumping out, different food items, different food signals. For me, they are the absolute all-round winner, and certainly during the spring they can be the difference between catching 1 or 2 fish or having a red letter session like I've just had and catching 9 or 10. Well, after losing a decent fish earlier and a couple of stockies, yeah, this is a nice welcome surprise. Just watched the football, about to get my head down. Lovely 31 pounder. Yeah, proper made up, the night's still young. Well, check that out. Just over 40 pound of ADH Fisheries mirror carp. Incredible, incredible carp. If that isn't proof in the pudding, you need to get on those solid bags this spring. I don't know what is. Get in there.